G'day folks, and welcome to this report of 1941 from the Grand Campaign in Dai Senso. And this has been another big year for the Japanese. They have conquered China. You may recall at the end of the last video, they had captured a place called Langchao here and had begun to shift their forces to the south to focus on Sichuan. This was a huge move. This is a lot of clear terrain. There's two cities here, capital. But because Sichuan and Yunnan had brought all their forces down to the southern border here, this is where the Japanese were. Just to reflect, this is where the bulk of the fighting was taking place. The Japanese were trying to push out the last of those Kiangsu forces and capture the last cities in Kiangsu. And then there was this communist Chinese attack up here. The Japanese quickly shifted their forces along the railroads up to the north, fought back that communist Chinese offensive, and then just kind of pivoted around and came in from this side. And I think they were surprised by their own success and caught just Sichuan, Yunnan, Kiangsu by surprise. With all their forces down the south, they did try to kind of retreat, but it was difficult to do so. The seasonal effects, the mud made it difficult to move. And the Japanese just rolled down, captured Chengdu, Chongqing, Guiyang, Kunming. They kind of moved through here first, and then this Guilin was the last Chinese city to fall. So Kiangsu kind of held out to the end, despite not having many forces left on the board. Now Kiangsu has slightly different rules. They don't become they don't kind of surrender like the other Chinese forces do. There are slightly different rules governing how they collapse, and I'm still a bit uncertain about that. We check for Allied minor country conquests. So certainly, I think Sichuan and Yunnan are conquered, but Kansu and Kiangsu can't be conquered in the normal way. I know there are some events like puppet government created, I think, or peace treaty that can set Kiangsu up as a Japanese dependent, but I've used that for Hopei. And as I mentioned in the last video, I haven't placed any of those Hopei forces. So that happened, and the Japanese kind of pushed down to the border with Indochina. And then they kind of made a mistake. I kind of thought maybe it would take some time to clear out the remnants of Kiangsu. It happened very quickly. And so I didn't play East Wind Rain, their kind of main offensive card at that time. I didn't plan it. So I was a bit of a season behind. And as a result, the Japanese were basically sitting around doing nothing for all of summer 1941. They did, however, plan it for August 1941. They planned this East Wind Rain. This brings us, you can see it from the top right corner, to total war. It does various things. It removes a lot of the policies in effect. So Russia and the Soviet miners were both at disputes. So it ended their policy. In fact, the communist Chinese were at armistice, so their treaty affected, and it also removes that treaty. The US were at quarantine, it removes that, but the British were at neutrality pact, and that, I understand, stays in effect. The Axis powers may remove this. They decided not to. They're going to focus on the US and Russia. When I say focus on Russia, there's not a lot going on. So we are now 2 turns into this sort of total war, and all the Japanese effort has been in this sort of South China Sea area. They've declared war on Indochina and quickly swept through there. I considered declaring war on Siam. I probably don't need to because Britain is going to be neutral throughout much of the war. So I might take these headquarters and shift them up to Russia. Just think about this now. We've of course moved into Balikpapan, sees that strategic objective, sees this one down here. This declared war on the Netherlands, East Indies. This has just happened. You can see the SNLF beachheads. So they invaded, and then we brought in. Is that legal to do? I need to check the legality of that. We invaded with these detachments, and then I transported this infantry across to the ports that were now captured. I think that's legal, but I'll double check it. We also invaded the Philippines, so we were at war with USA. We had sort of some beachheads up in the north and in the south, captured that strategic objective, the first US objective. And then sent this army across. They did suffer some casualties, but managed to eliminate the fairly weak garrison. We now kind of are looking. Well, look, the next objectives are way out to the east. The next US objectives are way out towards Midway and the Hawaiian Islands. And the Japanese haven't focused on their navy. So what I might do instead is begin to focus some of my forces up in the north here. There's kind of a scattering of these Kwangtung and a couple of these Japanese forces here. A lot of Russian objectives. If I can make a rush on this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Russian objectives up here. I think the Japanese are about 6. If they can get 9, that gives them automatic victory, I think. So that might be the Japanese plan. You can see kind of a couple of forces in Formosa just hanging outside Hong Kong in Canton. These guys up in Hanoi in a port, getting ready to sort of shift out to Borneo, but they may not be needed. I mean, there are so few Netherlands East Indies defenders. When I say so few, there are in fact none. You get 1 Dutch reserve force, and I think that's about it. So, looking ahead at 1942, I think that's what the Japanese are going to do. They're going to start shifting up to Russia, and yeah, we might escalate this war in Manchukuo and Mongolia. At present, I haven't done the victory check, but as I said, I think the Japanese have 6 plus 6 strategic objectives, which should push them up to 2 victory points. It's a +2 modifier to all these political die rolls, I think. So, yeah, I think we'll start preparing for that northern offensive and not worry too much about what's happening sort of elsewhere in the Pacific. Stay tuned, and I'll report back.